legendary, dynamic, funny, gracious, radical, humble. These are the words that I think of when I think about our keynote speaker today. Viola Johnson came to me this morning and said, "Oh, Tristan, that bio is so long, just don't really read it all." And I said, of course, Vi, and I will now defy those orders. Not just because I'm top, but because here's the thing. We have to acknowledge the incredible accomplishments of the people in our community. And we've got to do it while they're still alive.
That's right.
So I'm going to take my time and tell you about Viola M. Johnson, who is affectionately known as Vi. She's an American leatherwoman, activist, author, and archivist who embarked on her journey in the leather and BDSM scenes in the early 1970s. Amazing. A strong advocate for the necessity of preserving leather, fetish, and erotic history, Johnson speaks and writes on a broad spectrum of issues that concern her and her community. She's a member of Tulsa Uniform Leather Seekers Association, Lesbian Sex Mafia, National Leather Association International, and an honorary member of a lot of organizations. She's been a board member on the Leather Archives, NLA International, Pantheon of Leather. She's an officer of the Toolbox Technicians, Tulsa, and Leather and Lace. She has spoken at nearly every event in this community, as a keynote or as a presenter. Let that shit sink in. Her keynote address at Beyond Vanilla, legendary, in Dallas in 2007, resulted in the formation of this thing called KinkyVoter.com. It's not around anymore, but it was an organization dedicated to increasing the visibility and the political clout of sexual minorities and encouraging those minorities to vote. Okay, that was back in 2007, and guess what, motherfuckers? It's even more important today for all of us as sexual minorities to vote. Vi has served as head judge or judge for Ms. World Leather and a million other contests across North America. She's also an academic who lectures at colleges across the country. With her partner, Jill Carter, IMSL 1996, they created the Carter-Johnson Library and amassed a collection of more than 9,000 pieces of erotic fiction, nonfiction, periodicals, club histories, and ephemera. You actually saw a small portion of the collection this weekend in the silent auction room. Vi is a crucial part of our queer leather history. She's made history herself. She's been a trailblazer. She's been an award winner, including the first woman to win the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force Leather Leadership Award in 2012. The first woman to win that. She is the mother to the next generation. She's a grandmother to the next after that. Her stories are so powerful. She really brings home everything we're about. She represents everything we are and everything we want to be. She walks the walk. Please welcome our 2016 keynote speaker, celebrating our 30th year, Vi Johnson.
she was talking about, I think I listened.
Get your mic straight.
Greetings, family.
Get your mic straight, baby.
30 years.
Mike, pull your mic down. Right at you.
Am I plugged in? Yeah, can you hear me? Let's try this one.
Yeah.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wow. I am hoping that all of you have had as amazing a weekend as I have. 30 years. Wow. My first problem with that 30 number is that if I actually accept it, knowing how long I've been around these amazing women, not only does that make me old, that makes me very old. Now, when Sharon and Pat first asked me to keynote this IMSL, this 30th anniversary, my first reaction to both of the women that I adore was, no. I can't do this, not for the 30th. There are 1,000 other women that I could think of who should be standing on this stage. And I started to rattle them off, and both of them stopped me in the phone conversation. And they said, this IMSL more than any other is about love and laughter and sharing and stories. And that was something I could do because I've been around the IMSLs for damn near 30 years. Heck, I even married one. Well, actually, marriage came first. And we finished the conversation. I said yes, I'm not quite sure why. And then I sat there for a minute in absolute stunned silence going, what did I just agree to? So I put the phone down on my desk, went running upstairs to the IMSL I married, told her what I had done, and then she laughed at me. She told me that I should do what grandmothers do and tell stories, like my grandmother and my great-grandmother had done for me. And I thought about that. And as I sat down, kind of stunned at what Jill had said, I started remembering stories my grandmother and my great-grandmother had told me. They told me about the heroes in the family. They told me about the hard work, the sweat, the tears, the tragedies, and the joys. And I remember sitting at the feet of those two strong women, absolutely mesmerized by those tales. Because somehow, all those people, all of those laughter moments, all of that sweat and all of those tears had come together to make me. But my great-grandmother, Mary, would always finish her stories with me with this quote. She said, remember, child, you have a future because you stand on the shoulders of giants. Now, I filed those stories away with all of the memories that young girls get, and went off to finish high school, college, grad school, fall in love. And right about the fall in love part, things went a little askew because I fell in love with a woman. And a very kiki woman at that. So the, classic 2.2 kids, white picket fence, American dream was going to go just a little sideways. Instead of making a family, we went out and we found one. And we found that family in a new group called Eulenspiegel. And we entered as frightened babies. We were trying to find others like us who could help us, teach us what the heck we were doing, and make sure that we were protected from a world that was determined to take us apart. Well, as any child learns, it was time all over again to hear more tales. Tales of this wonderful family who was now going to love us, hold us, and teach us about the lifestyle that we had come to love. So, I heard about the exploits of Monique Van Cleef and how her arrest in 1965 shook the community, but more importantly, how her refusal to betray her friends gave them all confidence. I heard the stories of Annie Sprinkle, her performance art, and her sexual adventures, and how they were empowering women to to claim their own sexuality, enjoy their orgasms, and practice their sex any way they chose. I remembered when Big Ruth laced me into my first corset, and she said, "As of now, your body is your own. Do with it what you will, modify it how you choose, and give it to the person you love, no matter what the legislature says." Now, I could stand here all day, and this list could go on and on. The writing of Patrick Olivia and Laura Anthony were my daily inspiration and my nighttime fantasies. Gail Rubin's dissertation on the kings of Castro Street is now the tome all dissertations quote when they write about us. Joe Arnone and Dorothy Allison founded the lesbian sex mafia. They dared to say women can practice SM. And then other things happened. We gathered. We were empowered by each other. We started to fundraise. Women stood up by their brothers and said, "We are here to help you." But all those heroes, all the new heroes in this brand new family that I loved, had something in common this time. I knew them. These weren't women on some remote pedestal who had the qualities that I admired. These were women I saw every week, that I got to talk to and write to, and talk to on the telephone, you know, the one with the cord. All of their deeds, their writings, made me stronger, and they also made me very proud. And as I look back on those memories now, I can still hear my great-grandmother saying that I stood tall because I stood on the shoulders of giants. And it's truer now than it was when I was a child. But now, as I enter my 60s, let me rephrase that. Now that 60 is long past, and I'm collecting Social Security, I realize that I've moved from the mother stage to the grandmother stage. And like any good grandmother, I'm a wisdom keeper. I'm a storyteller. No longer mother, but a tribal crone. And it's a comfortable place to be. An incredibly comfortable place to be. Because the memories are now mine to share, as generations before have shared with me. And now, it's time to share some memories.
When I tell you stories, ask grandmother.
Come here, grandchild. I have been told that this internet generation that you are so much a part of doesn't believe in heroes. That you look inside for qualities rather than looking out. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Personally, I think you want to know your heroes. But no one has bothered to tell you the stories. The difference is they are not remote people. They're here, in this room. So there are some people here that I want to tell you about. People whose faces you probably know, but whose deeds you don't. So I'm about to embarrass some old friends. I want to begin with the head of the IMSL Foundation. Pat Bailey, where are you? Stand up and be happy. Back there. That amazing woman, as you know, is the head of the foundation that's going to lead us into the future, empowering women. You know she was an IMSL. But what you probably don't know is that during her IMSL year, as she was celebrating diversity, she was also collecting food for every local food bank. And that everywhere she went, people ate because Pat Bailey made that happen. Sharon, it's your turn. Where are you, Spectre? Stand up. I've known that wonderful woman since she probably wasn't legal to come into the event she came into. An extraordinary piercer, a front runner in the body modification movement, you know all of that. The producer of this event, but those amazing skills weren't honed on IMSL. They were honed on an event called Power Surge. In 94, 96, and 98, Sharon, Dragon Excalibur, Dragon, where are you? Sky Renfro, Sky, where are you? And a few other amazing people said women need a space of their own. We need a place to laugh together, love together, learn together, as only women can. And they made that happen. Thank you, both of you, for being my heroes. Now, as to one of the roosters in this hen house, Spence, where are you? IMSL, extraordinary lawyer. But what many don't realize is that for the last 20 years, that handsome man back there has been our guardian. Silently and quietly, he's watched and monitored every law that could affect us positively or negatively. And long before the internet, when we were still using pens and papers, and an awkward thing called bulletin boards, and telephone calls, Spence was alerting this tribe every time anything happened that could affect us. He rallied us, and he made sure that we were protected.
Yeah.
Thank you, Spence. Max Steiner. Max, you still in here? Max Steiner, just about 20 years ago, proved that boy was a state of mind, not something that had to do with plumbing. The producer of Miss San Francisco with her wonderful partner, Liza. International Mistress and Slave from a few years ago. You two in here? Well, a lot of people don't know about Jody, and Jody and I met in 1980. Was that while LSM was forming on the East Coast, Leather and Lace was forming on the West, and its mother is sitting right there. Somewhere about 18 years ago, Jill got a wild hair brass to produce the Big or Little Sister, actually, contest to IMSL. After you had learned your skills and talked to your tribe for a year, then what did you do? So she decided to create the Misses to IMSL's Ms. The first Ms. World, the beautiful Annie Romano. Spent her title year representing us, not necessarily talking to us, representing us to the world and talking about the disease lupus because it affected so many. Thank you, Annie, for being here. This face you know, the first IMSL. Judy, where are you? Full-blood Apache, pet lover. Those things are all in her bio. One of the things rarely talked about is her fight for women's rights and her fight to make sure that the Equal Rights Amendment protected us and that we would stop hitting glass ceilings. Thank you, Judy. Another rooster whose accomplishments don't get talked about. Is Phil Wolf still here? More years ago now than I care to discuss, since I've known him that long. He decided that the next generation needed a voice that needed to be listened to when the elders wouldn't. The TNG movement is now all over the leather world. Its father is standing right there. Valline Muir, I can see you. So many people now don't remember the Spanner case and Operation Spanner. It was an abomination to this tribe. But one woman brought it to America's consciousness, and she's standing there with amounts of fundraising that I can't even begin to tell you about, and countless thousands of hours to help free those men and make sure that mistake didn't happen here. Thank you, Val. I don't know if the most prolific mother in this community is actually in this room. Is Sandy Reinhardt around? Mama's family is probably even bigger than my own, and that's saying something. Everyone knows about the family and the joy of being pinned into it, and the fundraising that the family does, and the supporting. But Mama often doesn't get the credit for the work she does for the Breast Cancer Emergency Fund, and how many women's lives have been saved. Women who wouldn't have been able to afford their treatment, all because of the behind-the-scenes work of Mama Sandy Reinhardt. And while I'm pointing out very special heroes, there's a cute little blonde about halfway back named Sarah Humble.
Yeah!
I've known Humble since dirt. As the owner of Playhouse with her then partner Glinda Ryder, as the producer of Just Play, as the first American leather woman, those deeds are known. How many of you realize that A Room of Her Own in the archives is her brainchild?
Yeah.
That the Women's Leather History Project, that guarantees that our history and our stories will never be forgotten, is her passion. Thank you, Sarah. Now, Miss Carolina, where are you? About that bio. Beautiful. Educator, author, writer, you know that. But what I love her most for are the images of women that she's photographed and published, making us proud of who we are and proud of our sexuality. Please never let that camera stop rolling. Thank you, Tristan. All of the producers of this contest, from first generation Sky, through Amy, through the third generation of God, where are you, Tomo, Rhonda, Levi, to the new generation of Sharon, I thank you all so much. And then one special hero that I also hope is here. Sarge, where are you? You know, Grandma watches because that's what grandmothers do. But yes, I am willing to have the conversation because I've lost friends to suicides. And because of your work, I'm hoping to God we don't lose any more.
Woo!
Thank you, Sarge, for being here. Grandchildren all, these are just a few of the people who have allowed you to stand tall, to guarantee that all that you are and all that you are is the next strong brick in a very long path. All kinds of heroes are in this audience. They all have a story to tell, from the first will to our newest title holders. Ask, learn. You will be the shoulders the next generation stands on. You will be the heroes who will be sitting here when in 20 years someone is looking at all of you and saying, tell me your story. Learn those stories, add yours to them, and thank you for being my heroes.
This chair. Just bring it back so it touches it. It's lift it up and bring it back to the.
It's covering the plug. You want me to turn it sideways? Because it was covering the plug.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold it together.
Is that okay?
Better.
Come back up here for another fucking, no, just come back up here.